In a world that we value beauty, we often forget to celebrate individuality. Good morning to respected judges, teachers, and all of the esteemed gatherings present here. I am Ishana Shah, here to make the case that contests, beauty pageants and contests have been damaging our lives. Although many people may think that this has been empowering the participants, but in reality, it has only been causing more problems than solutions. Firstly, the beauty industry. The beauty industry promotes unrealistic beauty standards that can affect the mental health and self-esteem of many people. For example, this Grand International owner publicly body shame many contestants, and the contestants face a lot of problems, mental health problems, and also that their public appearance was damaged. This sector has been promoting unrealistic beauty standards like tall, slender, and light-skinned individuals, rather than supporting all kinds of beauties. The diversity, beauty is a limited view of beauty. The diversity of beauty has been limited. The vast diversity of beauty has been limited due to the opinions of the people participating in pageants, the judges, etc. It has been causing a lot of mental health problems also. Likewise, beauty contests and pageants has been causing mental health problems and eating disorders like anorexia, which is often reported. It has been said that there's a lot of reports in many hospitals across the world. Even though the society is changing, but there's still environmental people in the society who thinks that all the participants of the beauty contest should be tall, slender, and light-skinned individuals. One of the victims of this was Hannah Smith, a British teenager who tragically took her life in 2013 due to the severe pressure of cyberbullying. Though her case was did not especially concerned about the beauty standards, but also reached the broader aspect of cyberbullying and the problems a lot of people face regarding their appearance and beauty values. There are countless more tragedies regarding this matter. We should all focus on empowering all types of beauties than only empowering a certain limited view of beauty. We should all aim for a society where people truly values the personality, the qualities, the empathy of people rather than the personality, rather than the beauty of other people. Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
Good morning to all of the respected and dedicated official panel of judges, the spectators, and anybody else who didn't fit in this category. I'm going to deliver on a topic that has been talked about for the past few 10 to 20 years. That beauty pageants aren't really that bad for people. First and foremost, or straightforward. Most beauty pageants are actually much more empowering than they think. Even though my opponent says that they don't empower them, most studies have actually shown that more than 95% of women actually increase in self-confidence due to beauty pageants and also have an increase in self-esteem as a result of that. Also, secondly, it improves publicity alongside the fact of self-confidence boost. Thirdly, when she said about the racial profiling, where it only promotes tall, the white women, the Miss Universe of 2018 was actually a black woman who was around 5'4" in height. So that point is disputed. Also, as well as she also serves as a role model for most women, as she went from a US pilot to the women in the family to a Miss World. The reason behind this was a capacity of her mom, which also shows that she also empowers women to go through harder times and persevere through them. Also, another point is that it also improves discipline. Women are also have a lot more discipline to improve their bodies, they look better for the beauty pageants. As well as having improved discipline also makes it's a lot more easier to connect with people and having much more of a social circle, which also boosts. So with that, I would like to conclude my education on the fact that beauty pageants are bad. Thank you.
Inner Beauty Davies. Good morning, dear Bachelor of Beauty, my fellow debaters, as well as everyone present in this room. I, Irishman TV, strongly stand for the notion that beauty pageants and contests are harmful. While we think these are very joyful and fun contests, they underlie the issues of negative impact on health or physical needs. Firstly, they promote unrealistic beauty standards where people are compared to idealized image of like trends in fashion, makeup, or body shape. And this also brings pressure to especially young girls feeling the need to be perfect and doing extreme habits like plastic surgery or like extreme dieting and having low self-esteem as well. Secondly, objectification and superficial judgments are also involved, where people are judged based on how they look rather than their characteristics or talents. When we prioritize appearance more than their talents, there brings a belief in society where people think that someone's value is based on how they look rather than who they are. Thirdly, it brings negative impacts on mental health as well, where people feel the need to be perfect because if they aren't, then they have the feeling of anxiety, depression, or feeling of failure as well. When they are constantly being judged, they also feel the need to be perfect as well. And also beauty contests reinforce a traditional gender role where people prioritize women based on how they look and fails to recognize their capabilities beyond their physical appearance. With that, I'd like to conclude my debate here. Thank you.
Good morning, respected brothers, honorable guests, my dear friends and worthy opponents. Today I am here standing against the motion on the topic that beauty pageants and beauty contests are harmful. First of all, beauty pageants and beauty contests are not harmful to the nation, society, or the nation and the community, as they have numerous positive opportunities. Adding on, beauty pageants also help boost the participants' confidence and helps them express their hard-earned skills, intelligence, knowledge, and talents. Beauty pageants and contests are not just about glamour or physical beauty; they are about boosting the confidence, empowering women and also developing the economic status. When we accept beauty in all its forms, we must also take some time to recognize the positive impacts that this has done on our society. This has allowed various participants from all around the world to demonstrate their cultures and traditions globally. Success in any one of these events will result in the pride of a nation and its people. This can cause unity between different societies and communities. Thirdly, beauty reasons and contests also help the economic status and can encourage small businesses and shops to in social media, news, etc. Beauty contests and events also help participants to also give a platform for participants to express their feelings, emotions, and personal stories. It gives a perspective on their opinions and views. Thirdly, beauty events and contests also help spreading social change, as it can cause awareness on different topics such as discrimination, gender equality, etc. In conclusion, we can say that beauty events and beauty contests are not harmful, as it gives a sense of value in each individual and to the points that I have mentioned. I think.
Good morning, everyone, respected panel of judges, my fellow friends, fellow debaters, and everyone present in this room. I have been the person joining the figure of the motion that beauty pageants are not harmful, and are not good for society, us, and all the contestants interested in it. Let's think about it. Why wouldn't some things that objectifies women, sexualizes them, and poses many unrealistic standards of beauty to small children being shown on TV not be harmful? It objectifies them as just a tool and makes the society believe that women are just for beauty and they have unrealistic standards with beauty and their physical attractiveness. What is beauty pageants, you may ask? Beauty pageants are just competitions where contestants are solely judged on the basis of the narrow perspective of physical attractiveness. They are not judged by their politeness, they are not judged by their personality, but only the sole narrow focus on the physical attractiveness. My fellow debaters said that they also have importance on building their confidence, and let me ask how and why. They are just there, and few may have 1 in 100, 2 in 100. What about the other 98 and the 99 others, which have financial burdens, who spend $40,000 in a big day at minimum, which equals to 5.5 lakhs, and they spend $75 per hour for 80 hours a week to have unattended trainings and ramp walks, and also have done many really cost journeys throughout the way for other predatory enthusiasts to see their unrealistic beauty standards. They are also potential for exploitations. Let's imagine this. You see someone in the TV. Wouldn't you want to be with them? Well, some predatory enthusiasts wish so, and many beauty pageants end up in the wrong side of the TV, being accused and raped in numerous occasions for their beauty. And other points include why beauty standards are even harmful for the contestants. They wear many makeup, and you can imagine wearing 5 hours invested in makeup for the public to see you, and you can potentially fail and be sexualized by numerous other public and be embarrassed in front of the crowd just for your beauty standards. Another point I may include is the point my fellow debater said, that it increases economic standards. How does it? We are just wasting potentials of women that would be police, lawyers, judges, and even singers, and putting them in stage for the public to see them in sexually inappropriate attires and misunderstanding for the public about their cultural face. Let's suppose that you are there in front of your whole crowd, your family and society in inappropriate cultural attire for some public to see, and they may be predators that are aiming for you to be free and aiming that you might be sexually assaulted. Thank you.
Good morning, hi, hello, namaskar, welcome to the respected and determined official panel of judges, audience, and opponents. Today I am Surata from Grade Analytics to represent my team and various production. Due to guidance and make it harmful. Due to lack of guidance and harmful. No, they're not harmful. They're a glamorous opportunity to showcase their talent and present on stage. It's not just about catwalking, posing and all that. It's more than that. It's also about showing your talent, and it's also about putting it to face, like. It's also about putting it to face, and it's to handle how you can handle competition, like. You're going to be handling competition, like doctors is handling specials, and complex anatomy, doctors is handling complex anatomy. It's also a great way, whereas diverse people posing like a Hollywood star and doing insane posing and shooting insane talent and channeling their very fun. Minus a couple of details, minus multiple details. It's also it's not realistic. Yes, it's also more it's not stressful, and it's a great way of future career, and it's also not harmful, as it's going to be maintaining great physique and. Yes.
Eliminated.
War crimes are crimes against humanity, meaning they affect all of humanity and not just the parties involved. That is why individuals and nations should be responsible for war crimes, and they should have to face the consequences. In conclusion, holding individuals and nations accountable for war crimes, regardless of their position, is essential for ensuring justice, preventing future atrocities, and maintaining global order. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Judges, esteemed audience, and my fellow debaters. Today I swear to firm and stand firmly against the motion that nations and individuals should be held accountable for war crimes regardless of their position. Holding a nation accountable for war crimes gives risks to the international community by ruining a nation's identity, culture, and history. Also, blaming an entire nation for war crime can also ruin the nation's struggles in which they went through the war, and only telling the bad part about their side of the story. Media also plays an important role in wars and spreading lies due to the higher powers involved. There are many communities which help in humanity aids in the war, like ICRC, Human Rights Commission, UNICEF, and etc. There's also called International Criminal Court, in which they hold individuals and prosecute them for the war crimes and genocides they have committed. Big powers like USA, China, and Russia aren't a part of this, making this only the small nation face the consequences of the war, which the other country might have started. In conclusion, it is not fair for the whole entire nation and the individuals to be held accountable, as it's not the individuals making the decision for the nations, but the higher leaders. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sanashika, and today I'll be speaking on the motion nations and individuals should be held accountable for war crimes regardless of the position. War crimes, which are serious violations of
laws of war undermine peace, security, and humanity at a global scale. It is important to hold perpetrators accountable. Why? Because accountability ensures justice and prevents further actions. When we don't hold responsible people accountable, we give them the freedom to continue this cycle of violence unchecked. Considering the words of Levi P. Eisenhower, every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and aren't fed, those who are cold and not clothed. War crimes aren't just about combatants on the battlefield. They strip away the very dignity of humanity. They make sure innocent civilians are left with lives shattered and futures stolen. Every time we fail to hold responsible people or perpetrators accountable, we should think about the consequences. We should think about the thousands of Palestinian children, the civilians caught up in power struggles, the women assaulted in front of their families. Likewise, the Nazi genocide of millions, the ethnic cleansing, and the horrors of concentration camps. They were not crimes against individuals, but they were crimes against humanity. The same goes for Russian attacks on Ukrainian civilians. When we don't hold powerful nations or individuals accountable and excuse their actions under the banner of politics, it becomes a way for political leaders to test their muscle, showcasing superiority. Because war crimes aren't necessary. They're just deliberate acts of ego and a way to assert dominance. They don't do any good to the society. So, excusing them under the banner of politics and saying accountability complicates politics is just not done. Because accountability actually ensures justice. Accountability is not important, it is vital. It is the bedrock of justice. It is the shield that protects the vulnerable from the powerful people's ambition. And which is why I strongly believe accountability is very vital regardless of anybody's question. Thank you.
Laws are silent in times of war, wrote the great Roman philosopher Cicero himself. This profound observation basically states or makes us understand that in the time of war, in the time of such turmoil, we can take accountability into consideration. Good morning to the esteemed panel of judges, respected teachers, and all the audience present here today. I am Asmisha Kharda from grade 9 Matrix. Today, as we debate on the topic, individuals and nations should be held accountable irrespective of their positions, we need to take a question into consideration. Can we really apply such standard of justice in the midst of such chaos such as war? Now, to seek such extent of accountability, it is not possible in the middle of a war. Leaders have their responsibility to protect their citizens and take care of their interests, protect their interests as well. Holding the citizens accountable for such external entities is like hurting our own nation's sovereignty and security. This creates a big gap between the international laws and the national interests. A lot of international laws like the Geneva Convention and the Rome Statute define war crimes, and they also set standards for prosecution. Offenders go to trials on the ICC or even other courts. However, powerful nations often evade the accountability by using a lot of various tactics and biased judgments in the court. This leads to even greater conflict in the court without having actual justice. I would even like to include our own Nepal's history, where even Prithviraj Shah himself has also committed a lot of war crimes. He has exiled a lot of populations and he has targeted a lot of civilians. But do we really question him? No, we do not. Because he did all of those war crimes for the greater good of Nepal. He unified Nepal. We are only present here today due to his contribution of actually unifying Nepal by committing those kinds of sins. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that we have to take initiation to do those things in order to have a greater future for the greater good. Thank you.
A warm greeting to respectable judges, the panel of jury, my fellow competitors, and esteemed crowd. I, Umar Kolar, am going for the motion on why nations or individuals should be held accountable for war crimes. First and foremost, justice for those who have suffered in war crimes. Being held accountable for the war crimes serves a sort of justice for the people that had suffered in the war and provides a sort of feeling that they have been served justice. Second, as you said, no one should be above the law. Avoiding the war crimes will create a culture of impunity, which makes the people that are powerful avoid getting held accountable for such war crimes. Now, second and foremost, Suryanta said that being accountable for war crimes destroys a nation's reputation, but that is incorrect. Admitting that you were accountable for the war crimes actually helps them increase their diplomatic relations and help them develop. So, being accountable for war crimes rather than destroying the nation helps them grow and maintain peace throughout the world. Along with that, if you are not being held accountable for the war crimes, you are just saying that all the lives lost during the wars are irrelevant. With that, I conclude my speech. Thank you.
Do you think after World War II, if the Jews had taken revenge and started punishing Hitler, they would only punish him? The answer is no. The Jews or even other governments would have punished not just Hitler, his family, his supporters, and even the entire population of Germany who had nothing to do with the war. Why blame the people of Germany who had nothing to do with the war when the fault was at Hitler? And this just caused back and forth diplomatic irrelevance between the nations. Good morning, everyone. My name is Vidya Nadikari. Today I am here as the last speaker of the opposing team, opposing the motion that individuals and nations should be held accountable for the war crimes. Nelson Mandela said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and hoping your enemies are killed." War crimes are complicated and problematic. The soldiers are in a very chaotic situation of do or die. They don't have an option. They either do the crime or they die. It's either I kill you or you kill me. They are under a chain of commands. They are under the instruction of their leaders. So in this case, who do we blame? What do we blame? The nation, the government, the soldiers, the leaders, who? Furthermore, many international laws have been implemented for punishment. But have we seen that powerful nations such as the United States of America, the Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, Japan, United Kingdom, and even some countries of the European Union themselves have not signed the ICC treaty? So if we go around giving punishments, the bigger nations will never be held accountable. This will just be an effect for the weaker countries. Let's take the example of the Russia-Ukraine war. Even if Russia has done numerous war crimes, if ICC gives out punishments, Russia can use their veto power of the UN to avoid accountability. And ultimately, the Ukraine, with its already destroyed infrastructure, will have to face war. Why are we encouraging back and forth war when we have to focus on peace? If we start punishing and if we start holding someone accountable, it will just encourage revenge plans, resentment. We should rather focus on peace and rebuilding rather than resentment. The world, it does not need more wars. It needs peace. That's what we need. Furthermore, I want to say that my opponents mentioned that war crimes, individuals held responsible for war crimes. But what about the future generation that will have to bear the burden of the blaming? Let's take an example. I am a German kid. I study in the United States of America. My friends call me Hitler, Nazi, and many more. No, that should not be happening. We should focus on peace rather than that. I would like to conclude my speech by saying that we should not hold nations or individuals responsible for war crimes. We should focus on maintaining peace. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Violence in operation. You just stated that bigger nations can get away with their war crimes. That's because accountability is not practiced. Once it is practiced, everybody will have to go through it. Everybody will have to be accountable for the punishments, for the crimes they've done, and for the mistakes they have made in the past. And holding someone accountable does not tarnish their reputation. Instead, it makes them better because they accept their mistakes and learn from it. Thank you.
I think my opponent is unaware of the political instability the world has. No matter how much how much accountability you put into practice, it's not going to work. Do you think larger nations like Russia and USA are going to understand about the accountability? Do you know how many councils are working for that? 3 or 4 or 5 at max. They do not talk about it. They do not hold them accountable. And even if they start holding them accountable, think about the veto power they have in the United Nations. We have seen cases where United Nations has avoided so many responsibilities. We have seen cases of paid media. The media outlets have been paid by the United Nations to not, for United States to not be release their news. So if we are holding someone accountable, it's just going to increase more and more war. I think my opposition is unaware of how the world runs. It's not variables and cupcakes for information. It's very diplomatic and it takes a lot of problems. It has many, many problems. Thank you.
Hey, quiet!
Before I begin my debate, I'd like to quote the infamous Hillary Clinton, who stated that women have always been the primary victims of war because they lose their husbands, sons, and fathers in combat. And yet, we don't know what misandry is. War greetings to the esteemed panel of judges who are the opponents, fellow teammates, and the attentive audience. I'm Joshua Thapa from Great Britain Mosha, and I'm honored to be commencing this debate by speaking for the motion. Misandry poses a greater societal threat compared to misogyny. Firstly, I'd like to define some key terms. What is misandry? Misandry refers to the hating of or ingrained prejudice against men, whereas misogyny lies on the other end of the spectrum and entails the belief that men are superior to women. While both of these ideologies are problematic on its own, what we'll be discussing today is which one of them is more detrimental to the society, and our team will strongly argue that the answer to this is misandry. If we truly believe in equality, then the hating of a man is no different to the hating of a woman. So the only way to properly analyze the impact of either misogyny or misandry on the society would be by comparing their population size. Men make up 50.4% of the population, whereas women make up 49.6%, which means that there are 102 men for every 100 women. And so misandry would affect a larger part of the population compared to misogyny. Now you may say that the difference in your population is minute, but we're talking about 233 million people in collateral damage here. My opposition may argue saying that misogyny is more prevalent in our society, which cannot be denied. But the matter at hand is about which of them pose a greater threat or create a greater threat in the present or in the future, and the numbers have spoken in the favor of misandry. Another point that is important to note is that being a victim is hard indeed, but what's worse is not being recognized as one. And the lack of awareness surrounding misandry is what makes it more or less damaging. let's say we hear about a woman facing domestic violence, then our first response would be sympathy or trying to figure out a way to help the woman in question. But in the same way, if we hear about a man facing such actions, then we would not even believe it. Or we would not try to understand. We would call them dramatic or unreasonable. Where is equality then? A prominent example of this can be the court case between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We all heard Amber Heard say, and I quote, "Tell the world, Johnny, tell them that I, Johnny Depp, a man, am a victim of domestic violence too, and see how many people side with you or believe you." The only reason that the verdict was in the favor of Johnny Depp was because of countless crucial evidences and recordings like these, and the media platforms were quick to target Johnny Depp when this case was first released without having any knowledge regarding it. I'd also like to state a quote from a former Rwandan politician who stated that the genocide in Rwanda is a tragedy and has taken a particularly hard toll on women because they now comprise 70% of the population, because the genocide mainly targeted the male population. This statement is ridiculous because she is basically sympathizing for the women when the men are the targets for the genocide. And so, my team will further elaborate. Thank you.
The discrimination against women and girls are the most widespread human rights violation on earth, stated the former US President, Jimmy Carter. Good morning to the respected panel of juries, my worthy opponents, and my fellow audience. Today, I, Christine Kandari, the first speaker, will be debating against the motion, misandry possesses a greater societal threat than misogyny. Let's just think about the quote I mentioned earlier for a moment. When we talk about prejudice, it is important to consider how widespread and deeply affecting the environment, how deeply it is affecting our environment. Raise your hands if you know a woman who's faced discrimination or violence simply because she's a woman. Most of you do, right? Gloria. So, misogyny or prejudice and hatred against women is deeply ingrained in our society worldwide. So, according to the World Health Organization, 35% of the women in their lifetime face violence, sexual or physical violence, just because they're women. And that is about 1/3 of the world's population. And these are just the reported cases. There are countless women who face and suffer in silence because of cultural stigmas, fear, and lack of support services. So, as my opponent mentioned that misandry is often overlooked and it is not talked about, or men's feelings are often suppressed. But I strongly disagree with that. Because what I believe is that yes, misandry does exist, it's a fact. But it does not affect the world, it does not affect the population as much as it does to women. Now, for example, women earn on average 23% less than men on a global scale. And imagine working the same job but getting paid significantly lesser just because you're a woman. And in leaderships, about 23%, about 10% of the Fortune 500 companies are led by women. That is straight discrimination, and I believe that that should not happen, and that is why misogyny is much more of a greater societal threat than misandry. Now, misogyny runs in workplaces, government, laws, and even healthcare services. In many countries, women still face barriers to access healthcare services, especially in terms of reproductive rights. So policies and laws are often made that subject women to getting abortion or reproductive rights, and that is something I think misandry does not, and men do not face at all. Now I'd like to talk about now I'd like to ask you guys another question. So do you think that the problems such as unequal pay, medical health services, limited medical health services, and violence are something that men face on the same rate as women? The answer is no. Men do not face those problems at all.
characteristics of that. Now I'd like to talk. Now we cannot say that misandry possesses a greater societal threat than misogyny, but women are still fighting for their rights to be heard, to be safe, and to speak up about their own rights. Now, my opponent mentioned about how men have this pressure, or they may believe that men have to be tough in this. They may be misandry covers the portion where men are supposed to be tough and so. But I believe that the pressure that the word men should be tough, only it comes from a similar system, patriarchal system that also covers misogyny. So for example, in countries like I said, where there is gender equality, men don't suffer as much, and I feel like to say that misandry possesses a greater societal threat than misandry possesses a greater societal threat than misogyny is to ignore the centuries of suppression, inequality, and violence that women have been facing.
Hatred in any form is a danger to society. Warm greetings to the esteemed panel of judges, my respected teachers, my worthy opposition, and my dear friends. I'm Ayan, and today I'm here speaking for the motion, misandry poses a greater societal threat than misogyny. Firstly, misogyny is well spoken, well documented, and it's legally enforced against around the world. While most of you probably have not even heard about the term misandry. This alone speaks about the volume of societal ignorance in a topic that is as important as misogyny. A simple Google search reveals that the ratio of media coverage of misogyny against misandry is in the ratio of 30:1. But both of these issues are in our society, but we only like to talk about misogyny. And also our society neglects men and their mental health. The WHO estimates that WHO states that men are 3 times more likely to die of suicide than compared to women, but yet our society believes the opposite. Women get all the resources they need, whereas men, who are the ones who need it more, are often neglected. And also, men face more serious violence and are accused of more violence. It is a societal belief that just because he's a man, he must have committed the crime. And this biasness is not just in our society; it's also in our justice system. About 80% of all people who are wrongfully convicted are men, and these are just ones who won their cases. Millions of men go to prison every year for crimes they did not commit. Similarly, the women who accuse men of such crimes are let off easily. The prosecutors don't want to prosecute women because they believe that it would discourage actual victims from spreading their stories. But this leniency does not take into account for the lives of men which it destroys. The story of Brian Blank is a prime example of this. He was an American football player wrongfully accused of rape. He was accused by his classmate, and which resulted in a plea deal which resulted in a prison sentence of 5 years despite maintaining his innocence. He spent years trying to clear his name, and the accuser later admitted to fabricating the story. This is just one story. Stories like this come around every day, but no one seems to care enough about it. Just as our society believes that men are always wrong, does not mean they have the right to destroy the lives of millions, destroy careers of millions. Also, our opposition stated that most of the Fortune 500 companies are owned by men because it was established by men. It was established by men. Yeah, it was founded by men. So should a woman get authority over a company just as she's a woman, or should she have the actual capability to? And men are also the major contributors to the economy and patent. Also, 85% of all patents ever registered are from men. So, and men can't, and such men who innovate for development of humanity can't innovate if they are dying of suicide due to lack of resources or rotting in jail because they were wrongfully accused. Our opposition also stated that Yeah, the wage gap. The opposition stated about the wage gap, but according to the European Parliament, that's not the case. It's because there's an overrepresentation of women in lower paying jobs. It's not because we get paid less, it's because they choose to do a lower paying job. Also, women, even if they are in the same job, it's proven that women work less hours compared to men. They also take more leaves and are more likely to leave the job, so of course they are going to be paid less. It's about how much you work, not because you're a man or a woman. Thank you.
Picture a woman walking home alone at night, her keys gripped tightly in her hand, every step filled with dread. The sounds of footsteps behind her sends her heart racing as she quickens her pace, desperate to escape the shadows that seem to close around her. This isn't just a fictional scene or a movie scene. It is an act or feeling creeping up to the society like a dark shadow with each preceding day. Misogyny. Good morning to the distinguished panel of judges, worthy opponents, fellow teammates, and esteemed audience. I am Rishna Karki, and today I stand here going against the motion that misandry possess a greater societal threat than misogyny. Be grateful that you are catcalled. These are some of the phrases that women have to hear every day. Imagine a world where the act of walking down the street can invite unsolicited comments, unwanted attention, and even violence and harassment. Most of the women face fear or discomfort while existing in public spaces, which portrays a message that misogyny is not just a word. It is a pervasive reality. And hence, from here, we can know that misogyny possesses or misogyny portrays a message that violence is okay against women and the increasing rate of violence is normalized. Now let's talk about how trauma is passed down in generation. For example, in the 1980s, the Rage Against the campaign exposed how music videos were objectifying women. Today, unrealistic portrayals of women in media possess a message that or portrays a message about body image and shares the idea that the woman's worth is based on her appearance. When a woman calls themselves a feminist, they are often accused of being a man-hater. But when a man goes as far as to sexual assault or harassment, they are just labeled as mad or mentally unwell. This double standard in the society reinforces the negative views about women and keeps on perpetuating the life cycle of trauma in society. Society does not marginalize men or deny them rights based on their gender. In fact, men hold most of the power from going to politics, to sport, to whatnot. When women don't involve themselves in leadership, the society misses out on the development holding everyone back. In conclusion, men just don't face the challenges as women does. In fact, men hold most of the power and the societal structure prefer men more than women. Phrases like man up don't compare to misogyny, which possesses violence, harassment, discrimination, etc. I firmly believe that misandry is a product of misogyny. If misogyny were so deeply rooted, misandry wouldn't even have existed. When women face these harsh realities, it is a sign of her awareness about the pervasive misandry in the society. Thank you.
Good morning to our respected teachers, panel of judges, students, and my fellow debaters. I am Raja Shikam, standing before you all as the last speaker going for the motion. Misandry possesses a greater societal threat than misogyny. In this generation, many people are aware that the world needs fight for women. But in my opinion, this fight is people are confusing this fight for putting women above men. Prioritizing women is necessary, but that priority is being looked at in such a way that no matter how and what, one gender is trying to surpass the other. And before I dive into the topic about misandry and misogyny, I want to talk about gender equality. I think that rather than that, we should focus on both equality and equity. Because while equality means providing everyone with equal rights and opportunity, equity means providing people with what they deserve. I think we should start looking at both women and men normally because priority and fairness is completely different from each other. If a woman is getting paid equally because she's a woman, then a man also has every right to get paid promotion just because he has a girl alongside him. Now on to misandry and misogyny. Misandry is hate against men, while misogyny is hate against women. Taking a very recent case about a human being who is not with us anymore, he was severely bullied over the internet, and he saw very few people speaking up for him or defending him. While for Camila Cabello, who is accused of the same thing, which is overshadowing their previous band members, we see majority of the people defending her, despite her also being accused of being racist. There's a huge difference between men and women in Muslims. Men and women, because the society has started to view feminism as women supporter rather than women rights supporter. And we're not talking about the past, we never really did. We're talking about what could happen in the future. And we believe misandry could cause a greater threat, because one being obviously the population and other being for society, misandry simply does not exist. And that could cause for the higher population to be highly affected. And take another example, which is of the Menendez brothers and Gypsy Rose. They both were jailed for the same reason, but Gypsy is out of the jail while the brothers are still inside. In conclusion, we're not saying misogyny does not exist. We're just saying that misandry is not being looked at the same level, because no matter a man or woman, hate is compared to be the same. Thank you.
Man is defined as a human being, woman as a female. Whenever she decides to act as a human being, she is said to imitate a man. Said by Simone de Beauvoir. Good morning everyone, I'm Ravina Bajaj, and today I'll be going against the idea that misandry possesses a greater societal threat than misogyny. Comparing them is just like comparing being stung by a bee to being captured in a hurricane. Sure, being stung by a bee hurts, but being captured in a hurricane is worse. Misogyny has been embedded in the roots of our society since a very long period of time. Let's go back 2,500 years. During the ancient Athens time. During that time, women weren't even considered mere citizens. They didn't have the right to vote, they didn't have the right to own a property, or they didn't have the right to participate in political or societal debates. And if a woman from the ancient times were to travel to the modern times, she would still have less opportunities than men. Moving forward, I'm sure you all have heard about the greatest philosopher Aristotle. Even he believed that women were inferior to men. And that just explains how misogyny is a very great problem back then and even now. Moving forward, in today's day, misogyny thrives in how women are objectified or how they are reduced to certain stereotypes. Reduced to certain stereotypes. To extremely sexualized superhero woman or the age-old chick in distress. In all of those movies, men are portrayed as the greatest supporter, the hero of the day, and while the women are just there who are in distress and have to get saved by the male. Not only that, I would like to talk about how Disney movies are influencing kids. For example, I'm sure we all have heard about the stories such as Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty. In Cinderella, she was living a very horrible life before Prince came and saved her. Along with that, in Sleeping Beauty was literally sleeping before Prince came and saved her. And if misandry were such a threat, then in today's day, there would be movies about men who were helpless and clueless. Instead, we have heroes such as James Bond or Batman who are always saving the day. Moving forward, I would like to talk about the difference in our real life between men and women. First of all, I would like to state the fact that 26% of parliament, only 26% of the parliamentary seats are of women, and 70 to 60% of men's income are of women. So that just defines how much difference there is between men and women. Even if they are doing the same amount of work or doing the same amount of work, putting the same amount of effort, it does not matter. They are always paid less. And women are always told to lean in while the society keeps on putting the chair under them. The fourth point is I would like to talk about violence done against women. Among 1 in 3 women have been sexualized or abused by a man in their lifetime. And I know you guys talked about how males also percent of males are being abused by males. And moving forward, I would like to say that even though both misandry and misogyny exist, misogyny is a greater problem, and it is an enemy that we have to defeat and fight against. And if we do that, we will surely be able to create peace in the society. And along with that, I would like to say that